What is up, gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode on the channel. So glad to have you guys back on here. On today's episode, I wanted to share with you how to implement small changes, simple changes into your day-to-day to achieve massive results through the power of compound returns. So this episode is going to be based off of a book that I've read quite a while ago and I've reread since quite a few times, which is Atomic Habits by James Clear. Most likely you will have heard of this book, and there's a good reason for that. It's a very practical guide. If you read the book, you'll understand that it's a no BS, very practical guide on how to set up good habits that stick and how to delay and to remove bad habits that drag you down. So I'll be discussing 3 of the key actionable insights that I learned from the book. And hopefully by the end of this episode, you'll be encouraged to actually pick up the book yourself and to give it a read. So where do we start? Well, we start at number 1, which is the idea of aiming to get 1% better every single day. Get 1% better every single day. Most people look at creating a good life as this massive effort, this massive change and shift in your entire life that you need to implement immediately today without any fault. And that's the only way to actually kickstart a change in your life. But your life as it is today is actually the result of small incremental 1% changes that are very, very manageable if you do them consistently. It's not that massive effect, that's not that Hail Mary that creates that life that you want. It's these small, very mundane, unsexy, very easy to do changes. But through the power of consistency, you allow them to compound over time. The same is true on the flip side with negative habits. And I've seen this in myself and in those around me. Sometimes you can allow very small things to creep up on you cumulatively over time, whether it's cheating on your diet, whether it's not going to the gym, whether it's not getting back to that email, whether it's not doing what you said you were going to do that one time. These negative habits are reinforced in your psyche. They're reinforced in your pattern of behavior, and over time they can skyrocket. So 1% better every day. I've noticed this also in my own life. I've taken up boxing for the last year, and through that year, I put in over 150 hours into my training sessions. Through those training sessions, I found specific plateaus that have really forced me to struggle. And in those moments where I'm really struggling, I focus on making small incremental changes each and every single time. It can be something as small as the way that I throw a jab or the way that I throw a cross. When I'm throwing a cross, I focus simply on taking that extra step forward, right? Perfecting that technique, the way that I twist my hips. So every single session I have one specific thing, such a small, minute thing from all the different punches, all the different combos that you can throw. I'm focusing on that one thing in that session because I understand that what and where I wish to go is the result of all these incremental changes. And I won't get there by trying to do everything at once. It's laser focus on one thing and then moving on to the next thing over and over and over again. A great example that is mentioned in the book is the British cycling team that won 178 world championships simply by making very, very small changes. You might think that they completely changed the training regimen. Maybe they changed their diet completely. Maybe they took steroids. Maybe they did all of these massive things, but on the contrary, they were experimenting with such small and minute things like the massage gels that they were using in their recovery, the way that their seats were fixed, the suits that they were wearing. All these small changes, they stacked them over time and they ended up with these massive results. Key point number 2 is the laws of behavioral change. In the book, James Clear mentions what are the key characteristics that actually influence us to change our behavior over time. In order to implement a new habit, a positive habit, what are the characteristics that we need to structure around that action in order to allow it to really seep into our psyche and to allow us to actually do it over time? Well, each habit change needs to have 4 key characteristics. Number 1 is you need to make that habit obvious. 2, you need to make it attractive. 3, make it as easy as possible. And 4, it should be as satisfying as possible. So let's actually reframe this within the context of wanting to go and train regularly at a sport like boxing, right? That's a difficult sport that you need to do. How do you implement that habit in your life so that it's easy? Well, you could actually hire a coach. You could hire a coach that creates a timetable for you where you have to be there. The easiness there is that it's simply set up for you. When you show up, you have a regimented structure and program that you have to get into. You no longer have to get into the gym and to figure out, am I gonna hit the heavy bag? Am I gonna do footwork? Am I gonna do shadow boxing? You have something laid out for you. So this is easy. you also need to be able to make it attractive. So how do you make it attractive? Well, you could create a sense of sexiness of that specific action in your mind. You tell yourself, I'm learning this to achieve this. So you create an attraction towards the habit you're trying to set. You really set that goal, and in your mind, it's something that you wish to achieve. You make it attractive enough for you to actually pursue it over time. 3, you make it easy. So we mentioned why you want to make it easy. Well, we also mentioned at the same time how to make it obvious. How do you make a habit like that obvious? Well, you make it obvious just the same way that you make it easy. You set up a specific schedule for yourself. Maybe you train 3 times a week. So you tell yourself, I'm going to go after this habit 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So you make it obvious. It's not something that is left in the dust. It's not something where you have to guess. When am I going to train? How often am I going to train? What times am I going to train? Just make it obvious. Make it as easy as possible for you to identify my habit is going to be built during these hours on these days between these times. And then the last thing you want to do is you want to make it extremely satisfying. Where does this satisfaction come from? Ultimately, the satisfaction comes from a feedback loop. The feedback loop can either be directly from the action itself. So as you watch yourself get better, as you film yourself and you review your films over and over and over, you're able to see your habit take effect. It becomes satisfying. You see an increase. Or perhaps if you commit to X amount of sessions to reward yourself with something, that could also make it more satisfying. There's a lot of different ways to make that habit satisfying. But as long as you're going through all these 4 key categories, your habit is more likely than not going to stick and allow you to build even greater habits off of the back of that. On the flip side, you can apply a similar framework to eliminating bad habits, habits that are not going to push you forward in life. You should make that habit invisible. You should make it unattractive. You should make it difficult, and you should also make it unsatisfying. By making it invisible, a good example for this would be, for me personally, the way that I may pick up my phone first thing in the morning. This is a habit I've always tried to overcome, and over the last couple of years, I've gotten much better at it simply by implementing this framework. How do I make it invisible? Well, I actually remove my phone from the area that I'm in. When I go to sleep, I put my phone either on the desk in front of me, so that way when I wake up in the morning, I have to get up, or just completely in another room. So this is making it invisible. I also make it unattractive. How do I make it unattractive? Well, it's no longer something that is appealing to me. Usually, the appeal of checking your phone in the morning is how accessible it is. It's so easy, it's right there, so it's attractive. It's something that as soon as you pick it up, you get a dopamine spike as you're checking your emails, whatever it is, your Instagram, your TikTok. So by putting it away, I need to just get up. I need to exert that effort to go get it. Simply to come back into bed, that just seems like a completely counterintuitive process. So I make it unattractive there. Also, I make it difficult. The same way, by putting it further away from me, I'm making it difficult for me to engage in that negative habit. And lastly, unsatisfying. I understand that in my mind, putting and sinking in the hours in the morning into my phone, whether it's 10 minutes, whether it's 15 minutes, is not something that's going to move the needle forward. So I've internalized in my mind that this is not part of the process of building the life that I wish to build. I know in my heart of hearts what are the core tenets of my life and what I wish to achieve. And I know nowhere along those lines does checking my phone in the morning and spending time scrolling through TikTok or Instagram line up with any of those requirements. So it is no longer satisfying or even attractive to me. Last but not least is the principle of temptation building. This is essentially linking an action, a positive action that you need to do that may be difficult to do, with something that is tempting to you, almost like a reward-based system. In the book, they give this example of this famous scientist that coded a computer program that was on a treadmill where it had a screen attached to it with Netflix running, but you can only watch that Netflix if you achieved a specific amount of speed on that machine. So this encouraged you to walk faster and faster and faster, thereby burning calories and actually putting your time to good use. And as a reward for that, you would be able to get your Netflix show directly on the screen. But as soon as you slow down, your screen would turn off. So this is a way of building in or tying in the positive habit of walking and burning off calories with the seemingly tempting habit of watching your favorite TV show. I've done the same in my life in a much simpler way. Recently, or over the last year, I got into the habit of journaling, of basically writing down my thoughts, what I'm grateful for, just ruminating or sort of unpacking the contents of my mind. This is something I do at the end of the day, and it takes a little bit of willpower to do, especially after a long 10, 15, 20-hour day. So how do I link that? Well, I like to eat specific types of fruits. So every time I get home, once I finish my dinner, I'll have a fruit that I really like, whatever it is. And immediately I've linked in my mind this fruit with this specific writing session. I'll bring it to my desk. I'll just eat it as I'm writing out my actual routine for the day, or what I did during the day, or my journal during the day, and I just linked it. Whenever I eat an apple, I have to do this. So it's a very simple way that you can implement it today, and it does not require you to code a computer program that tracks how fast you're moving so that you can get your Netflix out. So guys, there are 3 key principles that we learned from Atomic Habits by James Clear that we can use and we can stack to build positive habits in our life that create a better life for us and for those around us overall, and also how to eliminate and to keep away negative habits that are dragging us down. And this is the idea of getting 1% better every day, just stacking small incremental improvements every single chance we get. The idea of temptation bundling, so linking a positive action with something that is tempting for us, almost like a reward-based system. And then the idea of habit building, which is to make things attractive, make them apparent, make them attractive in a sense of making it something that you can easily track over time and something that's intimately satisfying. Then on the flip side, for negative habits, doing the complete opposites. So let me know what other key points, if you guys have read the book, that you feel would also be welcome addition in this stack. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please consider smashing a massive thumbs up. It really does help me out. It keeps me and my team motivated to keep pumping out this content for you guys. Thank you so much from the very bottom of my heart for tuning into this episode of Shadi TV. Until next week's episode, stay awesome.